Boom. What's up, you guys? It's Royce Jacob, and welcome back to Waves Capital. Bitcoin is showing some promise as we kick off the new year, but Bitcoin miners are on absolute fire. I just finished recording a video reading over this CNBC Pro article, touching on some potential 2025 price targets for BTC and reminding ourselves of why we're fundamentally bullish on this asset moving through the months ahead, Q1, Q2, pretty much the entirety of the year. But in this video, I want to focus on the short term. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at Riot, and we're going to take a look at Mara. And I want to give you guys a few price scenarios that I see potentially panning out in the days and weeks ahead. All right. So, Bitcoin. Let's just get the potentially bad news out of the way first and discuss this potential head and shoulders pattern. If you guys have been following along in the newsletter, or if you guys have been watching these recent videos, you would know that this, or pretty much anyone's Bitcoin content, any technical analyst discussing BTC is likely discussing the possibility of this head and shoulders panning out, okay? So head and shoulders pattern, you can see the left shoulder here coming up with the head, followed by that kind of the symmetrical trading range, which results in the opposing shoulder line, okay? If this head and shoulder pans out, this is kind of the point of contention amongst technical analysts, at least, is where is the resolution point of this head and shoulders? If you're a true bear, if you're a mega bear on BTC right now, which I don't think many are, so I don't see this as a very likely scenario, you could say that this head and shoulders pattern could potentially take us all the way down to the high 60s, to the base, the absolute base of the shoulder, the initial shoulder that we saw, November 5th. We all know what happened after that. So again, that's why I see this as a pretty unlikely scenario. Once again, like a 30% correction from current levels, I don't see that as a possibility. Personally, I think the worst case scenario for Bitcoin would be a retest of this just this little ceiling we saw right here, immediately following the announcement that Trump was going to take office. That is at about $78,000. So in my mind, that's worst case scenario for BTC. Personally, I think that $82,000 would be the floor for Bitcoin. Keep in mind, it's always possible that we fall further than this. But personally, I think 82,000 will act as that base, will be, in my mind, the worst case scenario for Bitcoin in the days and just in the month of January. I'll say that to kind of keep it conservative and vague. In the month of January, I think the worst case scenario for Bitcoin is going to be $82,000. At that point, I will definitely be looking to purchase even more call options like I did today on names like Riot Platforms and Marathon Digital. Okay, if we break out, I have no idea how high we'll climb. We're pretty much, at this point, to rule out this head and shoulders as a potential pattern, I would want to see us break above, just to play it safe, just eyeballing this real quick. If we can break above $102,000, 103 to make it even safer. If we can break above 100 to 103K, I think that would rule out the potential for this head and shoulders pattern by breaking above the top end of this, the initial shoulder range. And that would likely result in significantly higher highs. And again, I don't know, how high do we climb? I don't know. Trump takes the office on the 20th. That will likely act as a pretty damn positive catalyst. We've been talking about this for months. This was well before he took the office, but just with everything that's happened over the recent months, with Trump's Bitcoin conference appearance, with Trump meeting, going and visiting Bitcoin miners, everything has kind of been there have been so many signs for Bitcoin miners over the past 6 months that provide so much promise for the year ahead and what this presidency could do for Bitcoin mining companies and obviously the stocks that trade alongside the companies. But Bitcoin miners have had a terrible few months. They're waking up today, and I think this is just the beginning of a really, really exciting run for Bitcoin miners and really a resurgence, Phoenix from the ashes moment for Bitcoin mining stocks. Okay, so before we get to Riot, before we talk price action, again, covering short term, talking the days, week into mid to late January maybe. Before we touch on Riot and Mara, if you guys want to trade alongside me on a daily basis, not trying to tell you what to do, I want you to see what I'm doing, learn from my failures, learn from my successes. Thankfully, it was an amazing 2024, and I expect no different, hopefully even better returns and gains in 2025. So if you want to know, again, which call options I have on Riot, which call options I actually just bought on Mara early this morning, timed that pretty well, and all of the other call options and put options and stock positions and crypto positions that I have and trade on a daily basis in my personal portfolio, along with my trade alert newsletters, to join the team. It's the first link in the description of this video. $50 a month, $40 for every 3 months. It's completely up to you. There is a free trial. I will be offering this. I've had it on offer for a long time because I believe heavily in the product I provide and definitely feel like it's worth the money that I charge for it. But I do plan on removing this in the month ahead. So if you guys have been on the fence, give it a shot while you can. Okay. Once again, it's the first link in the description of the video. Appreciate it if you join the team. As always, if you are a member of Waves Cap, if you've been riding with me, then it means a lot if you share a little testimonial in the comments below for prospective members. And if you're new, if you do join the team, then welcome. If not, no worries at all. I appreciate you watching this video. Okay, so from a technical perspective, Riot really not looking super bullish yet. Okay. So on the bright side, I didn't touch on this with Bitcoin either, but this applies for Bitcoin, Riot, and Mara. When we're looking at 1-day RSI right here, boom, boom, 1-day RSI, and 1-day stochastic RSI, you can see that Bitcoin's 1-day RSI has jumped back above its exponential moving average. So the blue line went back over the white line. That is bullish, with 1-day stochastic RSI curling to the upside, also a bullish indicator. Volume looking pretty strong. We're seeing, not like we saw back here, but you can see volume slowly starting to pick up again. And once again, if we break above 100, 203K, I expect to see a pretty big green volume candle right there. Okay. So that said, Riot is looking no different. You can see here the Riot Platforms, is pretty much mirroring those exact 1-day RSI and 1-day stochastic RSI indicators. Okay. And again, the same goes for Mara. The same probably goes for Coinbase and MicroStrategy as well, but we're not talking about those today. In terms of short-term price targets, there's a very, very clear price target to keep an eye on, and that will be the line of short-term resistance on Riot's descent, like just kind of a downtrend. Okay. This is almost a sideways trading range here, with this being the floor of this range. But Riot is still printing, is still in a technical downtrend, and I do expect this line of resistance on the downtrend to come into play. Okay, so conservatively speaking, conservative meaning that I'm using more than one touch point, this would be what I call absolute resistance. This is conservative resistance, as I dub them. Okay, I always trade off of conservative resistance because, again, if you're trading, especially options, you always want to be one step ahead of the guy you're trading against. This is a you are trading against people, against funds. You always want to be one step ahead of the competition you're facing, which is why I like using these conservative trend lines. Okay, so if we test this conservative line of shorter term resistance in, let's just say by next Friday, by the 17th. Okay, I'm sorry, by the 10th would be next Friday. If we test this by the 10th, that would lead us up to about 1350, okay, or about 14% up from current levels at $12. All right. From there, the next clear target is going to be this line of this line of resistance that's been in play for Riot since July of 23. So this line has acted as a very stubborn line of resistance. You can see here again, this is conservative. This right here would be absolute. Riot pretty much perfectly tested that on the rally we saw back in November, like just a couple of months back. So ultimately, I do expect Riot to make its way up here. If Bitcoin, is able to climb to these very optimistic, very speculative levels that are still very possible, I do think that Riot will ultimately break above this line of long-term resistance. And from there, obviously, this is very dependent upon how high Bitcoin climbs, but I think $17.50 to $19, just the top end of this very long-term trading range, is a pretty easy target if we're able to break above this line of long-term resistance. Okay, so that's Riot. Let's take a look at Mara, Marathon Digital, from a short-term perspective. A little tougher to read. You can see here once again. Obviously, I'm actually going to use this just to keep it a little safer. See, this is going to be the line of, you could say this is it right here, which I guess makes it even more potentially bullish because it makes it makes the level at which Mara has to break above lower prior to being in a technical breakout. So it kind of depends what traders are looking at here. Mara's chart, in my eyes, is pretty ugly. But ultimately, I do think that I don't think that this trend line right here will serve as a whole lot of resistance if it just based upon looking at charts for years. I don't think that's going to act as much resistance. I do think that Mara in the short term can easily test the line of resistance on this uptrend. And just keep in mind, you guys, it's going to be similar to Riot. You could say here we'll go conservative resistance on this kind of this medium term ascending channel that we spent a lot of time out of after the announcement that Trump was going to be president, and just the rally amongst Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners was sparked. But just looking at this, we are maintaining levels. We did just bounce off of the line of support on this pretty conservative, pretty moderate ascending channel. And from here, I think short-term price target, if you're trading this, which personally I am, I do plan on probably taking some profits from a new Mara position that I just established. Once, if this trend line is tested, that comes pretty close, pretty in line with Riot, and that would be, like a 13-14% move up in the week ahead if we're to test it by next Friday. Now, from there, again, you can see there's a lot going on with Mara. We got some long-term trend lines that it's really as I'm looking at these right now, I don't even feel confident in just elaborating on these. You guys can see it here. Like, Mara is in a very, very long-term megaphone channel pattern, similar to BTC. So megaphone, boom, sprawling out over a long-term time horizon. I'll just say that if Bitcoin does reach $225,000, then I wouldn't be surprised in the least to see Mara make it up, 2x from here up to like 40, 45 bucks over the long term, or over the months ahead, in order to test the top lines of resistance conservatively once again on this long-term megaphone channel. Okay, so once again, we'll cross those bridges when we come to them. Short term, I'm thinking 15 to 20% moves for both Riot and Mara. Just keep this momentum alive. Bitcoin is looking good. Again, if we break above 102, 103K, I think we rule out this head and shoulders pattern, and we can resume the party. So happy 2025. We're off to a hot start, and I'm excited for what the future has in store for us. Once again, if you want to trade with Waves Cap on a daily basis, you want to look into my personal portfolio and my daily trade alert newsletters, daily charts like these. It's the first link in the description of the video. And if you want the members exclusive video, then just hit the join button right below this one. Okay. I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace, guys.